Okay, so Ann, tell me what to do with it. Because I was going to save it. Do I have to pin?
You've got a cecropia moth, a close relative of the polyphemus moth. They are close relatives, they're cousins, and they are among the largest moths in North America, also known as giant silk moths. And I made my polyphemus moth because I once got invited to a fairy party for the young children, the little girls, and I'm not much of a fairy, but I am an insect, so I showed up not dressed like a fairy, but dressed kind of like a fairy-ish, like a bug. The dress is thrifted, the wings are a curtain that I hand-painted, and they have pockets. I only now just decided the next campfire I'm bringing this. I'm gonna wait until there's a lull in conversation, come out and just start buzzing the campfire with it. And as far as how you want to display it, there are lots of things that you can do. If you just want to get the thing behind something protective and you're doing it on a budget, a little bit of Elmer's glue, go to the thrift store and find a frame that is, fat enough to accommodate your little dude. Or go to a craft store and pick up a shadow box. The handiest cecropia I have to show is this shadow box that my friend Bill made for me, and it's got a cecropia and a luna moth. You can see how faded the green is from being out in the sunlight. Or if you know someone who cuts glass or frames things, I just happen to know a guy who frames paintings, stuff like that, and he's got a UV glass so that if there's a painting in a room, sunlight won't penetrate it and fade the paintings or your butterfly scales. Here's another one that I purchased at like a reptile show or something. These are death's head moths. Y'all might recognize them from that cool movie with Anthony Hopkins.
Put the lotion in the basket.
With the shadow boxes, you could also probably glue it. There is a proper way to pin things. If you wanted to just kind of like do it quick on a budget without investing in a lot of equipment, you just get the thinnest, skinniest pin that you can. If you actually get insect pins, they're quite small. And if you get them out of stainless steel, they last forever. You'd be interested in this since you're a metal worker. My entomology prof said that I think it's down in the Smithsonian. It's either Darwin's insect collection or Linnaeus. Carl Linnaeus, he's the first one to come up with a binomial nomenclature of naming things in Latin. So we're not just like, that's a black snake. Oh no, that's not what a black snake is. Over in my valley, we call that a black snake. We now have black racers and black rat snakes, and we've got Latin for them and all the birds and everything so that you're not confusing. I don't know, where you're from, you probably have like a plant or something that has 5 different names, 5 different plants that answer to the same name. Linnaeus is the one that came up with the nomenclature, so we stopped doing that. One of those guys has an insect collection, and they used carbon steel pins, and they're rusted out, but the chitin inside of the elytras of the beetles has not degraded, so the pins are actually rusting out from behind the insects, which is wild. These are stainless steel. They're very flexy. I keep these for digging out burrs and slivers and stuff. If you're making a formal collection, there's this whole proper way of finding like dead center and then just going off to the left and how high up they have to be. Where's my step block? Can't find my step blocks without tearing everything to Christ apart. But if you do a formal specimen, you have to say where it was collected, who it was collected by, the date, and then identify it on the second tag on the bottom if you can. And so you pin your insect, properly. If you look at a bug guide, it'll show the little diagram of whichever type of insect you have, where it goes through the body. And then you stick it in the biggest hole, the deepest hole of the step block, and it slides the insect up to there. And then the second deepest slides this label up. And then the third deepest will slide your ID label on if you've got one. So that all of your critters are on the same level. All of the information tags are on the same level, and all of the ID tags are also on the same level. This is being pedantic, and this is the collection I actually had to make for college, and that's why it's all perfect. But that is how I kept up my pin. I loved tedium at this point. That's how I made my insect collection. I would spend hours before I needed these things. I would just sit there and just adjust legs. Oh yeah, if you want to adjust things, if your insect is still loose, like the joints are still loose and you can put the wings where you want them to be and the legs, you can get a block of foam. I dug out a little hole for the abdomen and the head and the thorax to set down in so that this lep could sit flush, and then ever so carefully, you take your pin and you grab that top vein of the wing and just kind of drag it up to where you want it, and then you can use strips of paper to hold it in place, and you just let it sit for a while. This one's been sitting for about 9 years because I haven't pinned an insect since I became a mom. And there are also these things called spreading boards where it's just an adjustable sliding tray. You pull out to the width of your insect. So like your cecropia moth, you would make it fat because she's a nice big fat specimen, and then set the fat part down in there, so that her wings lay horizontally, and tighten it up. And then you use this to pin into. This wood is fairly soft. It might be pine. This is just the cigar box of my bugs that was on top. I got a few more, but this is already too long. So you can just glue it into the back of behind a picture frame, or you can get a shadow box. That would probably be my suggestion, because that's a nice, pretty moth, and it doesn't even look to me like it needs to be spread. It's just really nice the way it is. And if you've got some dried flowers, maybe you could like put those in the shadow box and have the moth kind of hanging under it. And I do have this one cool specimen that I picked up somewhere, made by a woman who liked insects, who liked to do this kind of stuff and like what you're talking about. But she got her hands on these lenses, 2 lenses, and so she glued them like face to face with the butterfly in between them. And one last kind of shadow box. This was purchased, I think it's a blue morpho. Also an awesome way to display. So if it were me with that pretty little baby, I'd probably go to Michael's or even Amazon and just get myself like a 6x6, measure your bug frame that you like, and just get it home and glue it. Use Elmer's glue probably. Collections are prone to mold, so you might want to have to access it at one point and just like hit it with a little bit of alcohol. I hope that Bug Talk shows up and can tell me what to do with a collection that has gotten mold on it over the years.